and welcome back to Coffee with the Wolves, presented by JJC Athletics. As always, I'm Damian Dennis, and once again, I'm joined by track coach Jeff DeGraw. Jeff, welcome back to Coffee with the Wolves.
Well, thanks for having me.
So, I know we're kind of recording this a little ahead of schedule. I wanted to talk to you next week, but we had to change our recording plans around a bit. But you got 3 meets left here in the outdoor season before you head to the national meet. How are you feeling, just kind of where this team is, where your student athletes are?
Right now, I feel pretty good. Our women are ranked 6th in the country, and our men are 4th currently. I think for the men, it's going to be a real battle among the top 3 or 4 teams. You know, obviously, when you go to the national meet, our number one goal is to perform the best we can. And then if things fall as they may, place in the top 3, because winning one of the team trophies for the top 3 is the ultimate goal.
Yeah. Last time we talked, you mentioned kind of the steeplechase being a little bit of a new event for you guys, at least heading into the outdoor season. Talk a little bit about how this team has performed in that up to this point.
Well, the steeplechase, we've performed pretty well. Emma Cicic, for the women, has ran the fastest time in the country by almost a minute. She ran last week. It was a 38-second personal best in the event, and she looked really good. It's probably the best race she has ran in college in her 2 years here at JJC. For the men, Andrew Sarletti, who was an All-American, was 4th last year at Nationals in the steeple. He ran the best time by about 20 seconds, and he was just 4 seconds off his personal best in his initial running of the steeple this week.
Yeah, that's really cool. I also want to ask you about Noah Smith, since we have him coming up later in the show. He's qualified, I think, in 4 total races. He's going to be focusing, I think, on the 3 of those races when it comes to the national meet. Can we talk a little bit just about his performance in those events?
Yeah, Noah's done a great job this year. He has, always had the goal to run well in the 400 hurdles as a freshman. Last year in high school, he was, I believe, 3rd in the state meet in Illinois in the 300 hurdles. And then moving up to the 400 hurdles, it is definitely a change, but he has prepared himself very well. Last week ran the 2nd best time in the country at just 55.84, I believe. And so that's number 2 in the country, and he continues to get better each time he races it. Now, he'll only have a couple more opportunities, but that's fine because, once you're in the national meet, you're there, and then we can get prepared, because after our last meet next week, we have about 10 days till we depart for the Nationals. So that'll give us some good training time.
Any other student athletes we want to highlight right now before we get into some other questions?
Yeah, the Johnson brothers, Chris and Alex from Lockport High School, they got the number 2 and 3 best times in the 800. They ran PRs 2 weeks ago at 156.6, and they just keep getting better and better each week. They're also up in the top 5 in the 400, and they're part of our number 2 4x4 100-meter relay, which Noah is also a part of. They've done a great job. Stephen Lundy from Oswego ran a great 800 race. Right now we have 5 individuals qualified in the 800. However, we can only run 3 at nationals.
Yeah.
So there is going to be some decisions that have to be made for the 800. But luckily, some of those people have other events to run. So it's a good problem to have. And when you have, 5 of the top 6 800 people in the country, the 4x800 relay looks pretty good right now.
Yeah. How do you go about making some of those tough decisions? You mentioned when they run other events, it makes it a little bit easier because maybe they can focus on something else if they're not chosen for the event. But still, the decision-making process, how do you go about that?
Well, I look at everything, what they're capable of. I look at, how maybe their time isn't as good in one event, but they could place higher at the national meet. I never want to take the opportunity away in one event to possibly win for somebody, because winning is hard to do, and being a national champion is something you rarely get to experience. But just seeing where it best fits for them, the individual, and ultimately, since the men will be going for a high team place, where we can score the most points as a team, because not everybody on the list, the national lists, say like there's 18 in the 1,500. Not all those people are going to run. So you have to figure out, okay, what other teams people are going to run in that race? How can we do? And you just get them ready to run at the national meet. Last year when we went to the national meet, everybody who ran for the men and women performed their best at the national meet. So I also have to take that into consideration.
And that's probably the time you want everyone to perform their best, is that national meet. How do you prepare, especially the freshmen, how do you prepare them to kind of get in the mindset of, this is what we've been working for all season, let's come in there with our best?
Well, we've been talking about it since day one, and you have to start early. You just can't say, oh, now it's the national meet, here's what you got to do. Yeah. We've been preparing all season long, just a little bit at a time. Maybe something here, like a meet. This is what nationals is going to be like. Next week with our 2 meets, both Friday and Saturday, that will sort of simulate how the national meet's going to run, because they're going to have to compete. Some people are going to have to compete Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at nationals. Most will be Friday and Saturday. So having 2 meets next week and then a week off is perfect in my eyes, because you can get that simulation of what it's like to run back-to-back days, or jump, in one event and throw in another event.
Yeah.
And if they never experience that, they don't know until the national meet.
Now, you mentioned how important it is for that simulation of the back-to-back meets. How important is that 10 days or so off in between meets, in between the final regular season meet and the national meet, for resting, and then, of course, practices?
Well, that's all about peaking and trying to get everybody prepared for one final go at it. Workouts, some of the stuff will be different. You're not going to kill your athletes the last 10 days before the national meet. The one thing that I've also talked to a lot of people about, and of course, I'm huge on statistics and weather. Now, I've already looked at what the weather's going to be like in Utica May 7th, 8th, and 9th.
Yeah.
And that's not going to change. Oh, no, it's going to change like tomorrow.
Yeah.
Every day is different. But, just getting them mentally ready for, anything. Last year was absolutely beautiful there. It was 80-some degrees every day. Not a cloud in the sky. This year it looks like it could be a lot cooler with the chance of rain. But, that's fine too, because, we practice in those conditions.
Yeah.
And some other teams maybe don't practice in those conditions. Mm-hmm. We also practice in the morning. I just talked to Emma about her steeplechase race, which at Nationals will be at 9:15 in the morning. She practices at that time.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of other people who do hard workouts at 9:15 in the morning. But a lot of this that we do that is in preparation for that, the one big meet of the year.
Yeah. And it sounds like your team's very prepared for this. I mean, you've got numerous student athletes hitting those national qualifying marks, practicing early in the morning. I want to ask a little bit. We talked about it, I think, a couple of weeks ago when you were last on the show, about how the weather can impact the outdoor portion of the season. Have you guys run into any issues with weather up to this point? And how do you adjust when the weather is poor? So you mentioned, it's going to be cooler in Utica, at least currently forecasted, with a chance of rain. How do you combat that when you're actively out there, especially in the biggest meet of the year?
Well, we've had one meet and it's been really nice this year, so we've already experienced that. Living in the Chicagoland area, we get everything during the outdoor season.
Yeah.
You get rain, you get cold, you get hot. Like last weekend was great. Mm-hmm. Now this weekend it's only supposed to be a high of 52 on Saturday.
Yeah.
So that's something that I think, and if you look at the national rankings, the top 4 teams are from the Midwest. And the majority of NJCAA Division III schools are in the East. Mm-hmm. But it's right here in our own backyard that we have the best teams in the country.
Right. That's awesome. What are your expectations as you move into kind of this final portion of the season? we already know you're going to have a handful of student athletes competing at nationals. You're hoping for that team win. What are your expectations?
Keeping everybody healthy, and there are some people who are close or not in an event yet, trying to get them qualified in our final 3 meets, and just seeing where we're at. But probably the number one is keeping everybody healthy. I mean, I know we do have 10 days, but and getting them mentally ready and running a decent race. They don't have to run their best right now. That's saved for that weekend in May. But just giving them the confidence and the belief that they are as good as anybody else.
Right. All right, Coach. Well, we're about to wrap up here. We got Noah Smith coming up, but there was something else I wanted to ask, a little bit off topic, but on your door down the hall here, you have a lot of different stuff posted. You got the records posted for your student athletes. You have motivational advice. I want to mention one of those pieces of advice you have is about eating a banana or cherries before bed.
Yes,
I've been actually doing that since I've started here. When I remember to, I've been dieting for like the last year and a half or so. But I think my first week here in November, I saw that. I'm like, I eat plenty of bananas. I eat plenty of cherries. I'm going to try this at night, see if it helps. I did it last night, and I slept better than I did the night before when I didn't eat a banana. I'm wondering if you have any scientific evidence behind this to back this up.
Well, I'm big on proper singing. We talk about it a lot with the team. But I've everything that I post or talk about, I've done research on.
Okay.
And there's just certain chemicals that you can eat. I found it, and I like cherries. And it said there was a big article, scientific study, that if you eat cherries before you go to bed, most people get up in the morning and eat bananas. Mm-hmm. And bananas are good for you, the potassium, especially athletes. But some of this stuff helps you sleep. And the biggest thing we tell our team, the best thing for recovery is sleep.
Yeah.
And if you can hydrate or put nutrition in your body while you sleep, that just helps everything you do. So there is some I just don't willy-nilly put stuff up there. And by the way, another great thing you got to start eating, and my team knows this, and I'm sure you've been in my office and saw the bottle of mustard soda it's in there. Mustard is a huge benefit health-wise.
Yeah. So I'm following the Mediterranean diet, and there's one recipe. My wife doesn't make it often. She's usually in charge of dinners because of my work schedule. But like a honey mustard chicken meal, which is pretty good, and she uses like a whole grain mustard, but we don't have it that often.
Well, you can always come down to my office because sometimes people will come in and we do, you get the packets of mustard. We do mustard shots.
That's awesome. All right, Coach. Well, it was great having you on.
All right, I appreciate it.
Hopefully we'll have you again probably after the season concludes. Just kind of wrap things up, see where you guys finish. I wish you luck at the national meet. And we've got Noah Smith coming up next.
All right, thanks.
All right, next up here on Coffee with the Wolves, I'm joined by men's track athlete Noah Smith. Noah, welcome to the show.
Nice to be here.
So, is your first time ever doing an interview on camera or anything?
Yes, this is my first interview on camera.
A little nervous?
A little bit, yeah.
At least it's not live. I get nervous when I've done live stuff in the past, and I'll be like, oh, I just got to power through it. But when we record, if you mess up, you can kind of stop and restart.
Yeah, it makes it a little easier.
Yeah. Hopefully we won't be doing that here, though. So I want to talk a little bit about your season up to this point. I think at the moment, I've got it actually pulled up across the room there, about 3 meets left before, you get to the national meet. Yeah. Just want to talk a little bit about the season up to this point, where you stand, how you're feeling, with the indoor portion and then this outdoor portion.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I'm feeling pretty good about the outdoor. Indoor, I was expecting a little bit more, but, starts of the season are always pretty rough.
Yeah.
But outdoor, it took me a little bit while, but the 400 hurdles is picking up. It started off real slow because it was first time doing it, transitioning from 300 in high school to 400 hurdles, now. Extra 100 meters is a big deal.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Things are picking up slowly. I dropped a few seconds off from last race, so hoping to just tick away at that over time.
Yeah. Now, your coach was in here before, and he had mentioned you qualified in a bunch of events. And, of course, because it was so many, I forgot all of them because we're trying to get you out of here because you got class in a few.
Yeah.
So he listed them all off. I'm like, okay, cool, and then immediately I forgot the rest because he mentioned the 400 hurdles.
Yes, yeah.
And then like 3 other events. I'm like, oh, I don't remember. So I think it was second place in the 400, and then you were second place in another events, and
Yes.
was it?
I'm second. So I'm second place 400 hurdles, second place in our 4x4, and then I don't know my ranking, but I am in the 110 hurdles as well. I qualified, but those are probably my 3 main ones.
Yeah. And then you said you qualified, I think, in a 4th, was it? Or
I'm qualified in the 400 meter, but I won't be running that because it'll interfere with my 400 hurdles.
yeah,
So
yeah, okay, that's cool though. So you technically qualified in 4 events.
Yes.
We've got 3 meets left for you guys. A chance to improve your times. Just kind of at this point, would you consider these last few meets more about just kind of practicing, trying to better your times, and just prepare for that national meet?
Oh yeah, for sure. These actually our next week we're having 2 meets back to back just to kind of instill that like one meet after another, just because that's what's going to be at nationals with their finals. So yeah, no, it's definitely going to be a lot of ingraining, and especially the step for the 400 hurdles. Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about kind of your conditioning and what you do to practice in these events? Because I was never a track guy. I was a football guy when I did play, and that was a long time ago at this point. And football was pretty much the only sport I did like on a team. I've never done track, cross country. I'm very unfamiliar with kind of like the practice and conditioning aspect of it. So you could tell me a little bit about your routine a bit.
My routine's probably just because we got practice early in the morning, so typically really tired during it. But but I feel like that might help a little bit for my events, because you got the like feeling of being tired. That way, when you're really like awake, it kind of instills that you're gonna want to try a little bit harder. But conditioning wise, I do practice a lot in the off season as well. I don't just wait for a season to start and then start going after it, but. A lot of getting steps down, especially for that 400 hurdles, like I mentioned earlier. That's probably the most difficult thing to condition for is just getting that routine and those steps in, because there's a lot of rhythm involved with that. So that's probably the biggest thing conditioning wise.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about the transition from high school to the JUCO level? Because you mentioned, I think it was you did 300 meters in high school, but now you're adding that extra 100 meters. Just a little bit about kind of making that transition and getting used to it.
Definitely a little bit of a transition, because in high school, like at least for the area I was in, it was typically not a lot of like too much competition. And not to sound cocky, but it was a smaller division. The JUCO level, like now I'm struggling to get like 4th at like the event, so it's like definitely a humbling experience. I'll give it that. But I don't know. It's definitely a tough transition, I'd say. Not a lot harder than I thought.
And some of these meets, though, also you're not just competing against other JUCOs. You're competing against
like
some
D3, D2s.
Yeah,
yeah.
And then some. I think there's been some 4 years in there. Like,
yeah.
Just kind of. What's that competition level like going up against the higher division levels and the bigger schools?
That's definitely a lot taken. We just recently went against Loyola too at a meet, and they're D1. And I was like, ooh, that was scary to go up against them. But there are a lot of really talented kids, especially up on that higher level. Hopefully, we'll get up there someday. But
How are you enjoying your time at JJC? I mean, we don't have the track facilities here on campus, but these facilities are pretty cool with the weight room and just kind of everything in one. How are you enjoying your time in this place?
Oh, I am enjoying it a lot, actually. The team obviously helps a lot too. They're all really funny, bunch of great guys on the team. And the coach, great coach, just really friendly to talk to, real funny.
Yeah.
But the facilities, I like because we still have the outdoor track, so we do have that to practice. Unfortunately, no indoor track, but we make do with what we got.
Yeah.
I do like it, yeah.
Has the weather impacted any of your meets so far in the outdoor portion? Because I know I had your coach on a couple of weeks ago, and we talked a little bit about the weather, and then I've been talking about the weather with the baseball and softball coaches, because that's messed up their schedule a lot. Have you guys had any issues with the weather?
Our first meet, towards the end of it, we did have a little bit of rain, but it was just kind of like sprinkling, I would say, and it was real windy and cold, so that was towards the end of it. It makes it even worse when you're running, because like the events like the 100, where it's like they can adjust it to whichever the way the wind goes, so you can kind of avoid it. The 400, you're going to run into it eventually.
Yeah.
So.
Have you chosen a major yet, or are you still kind of in between on that?
I am. My major's EMS and fire science currently.
Cool.
As of right now, so.
Not the first time I've heard that from one of our student athletes. What's kind of your thinking into going into that program?
I'm hoping that I can get my associates here and then hopefully transfer to a 4-year, looking at SIU, go to their public safety management. So hopefully I get my bachelor's and hopefully get a little bit better pay at a fire department in the area, hopefully.
I like that. I like having a plan. You're far more prepared than I was at your age. I knew I wanted to be a writer, and it wasn't until I went from JUCO to a 4-year where I'm like, okay, I'm going to get into journalism. And now I'm getting into, sports communications. So
Pretty close.
yeah, I'm in my 30s now, so I'm making a career change, after more than 10 years in journalism. But, you at least have the plan early. I was like, I just want to write.
Yeah.
So I know you got class soon, so we'll try to keep this a little bit short. What are your kind of expectations for the rest of the season? Again, you've got 3 meets left, then the national meet, so really 4 full meets left. What are your expectations, both for yourself and the team as a whole?
Well, I'm hoping that our 4x4, I'm hoping we can pick up the pace, and we just need to cut off, I want to say 2 more seconds, and hopefully get the first place at nationals. And then for that, for the 400 hurdles, right now I'm at a 55. I'm hoping to get down to a 53. Hopefully, I'll be lucky if I hit high 52s, but that's the goal.
Yeah.
We'll see though.
Well, Noah, man, it was great to have you on the show, and good luck with the rest of the season.
Awesome. Thank you.